Hello again. After a bit of a hiatus, we were traveling for a bit in Washington, and I'm going to get to that. And it was a little bit busy on the spot, but I did keep some notes and some memories, let's say, to discuss. Today is not necessarily specifically a wine tasting per se, but let's say it's more of a story, more of a discussion. And it's really about the whole theme about taking your wine with you to a restaurant. And you know, I've mentioned that several times before. And during this trip to Washington, we ate out quite a bit. So I had an opportunity to really do more of that. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Now, Washington is a little funny, DC, funny, I don't know, which is, and the reason is they have a very strict rules about alcohol. They have to open the bottle themselves. You cannot bring in an open bottle to the restaurant. Now, what does that really mean for people who pay attention to these things? It means that you cannot open the bottle ahead of time to let it breathe, even potentially decant it and put it back in the bottle, which is what I do, things that I do in New York and California, in Lebanon and other places. So it has an impact on how you're gonna enjoy the wine over dinner and what you think of bringing with you. And so to me, the solution is to take with you bottles that are not necessarily super complex or super fancy, that needing a lot of air to open up and evolve. And also taking with you bottles that are sort of ready to go. So they're sort of in their drinking window, they're very stable, they've expressed what they need to express, even though the bottle is still closed. And therefore, they don't need to evolve as much. And at least that was my theory. And let's just discuss, see if that worked out. Because at the same time, as we've talked before about this whole notion of taking your wine with you, it really makes a lot of sense financially. And the restaurants don't seem to mind. More and more restaurants are allowing that. You call ahead and you ask what the corkage fee is. And it allows you to really pick something you like that you've picked already. You've done all the homework. It's sitting in your cellar. And you sort of like, why have to go through all this again on a wine list that's not necessarily optimal? Few restaurants have really interesting wine lists. And frankly, these wine lists have become more and more expensive, meaning the markup on these wines is 3-4x. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So as long as your bottle that you're taking with you is worth at least, just around the corkage fee, you're going to come out ahead on many fronts, financially, qualitatively, and all those things. In any case, so we had options here. There's this Barolo by Elvio Cogno. It's just their Cascina Nuova. So it's almost a single vineyard. They look at it that way, but it's not. It's a 2011. Again, ready to drink. I really like what these guys make. I've had this wine before. 2011 is a good year to have right now. It's totally ready to drink. They make very high quality wines at all levels. They have a Ravera, they have a Ravera Elena, they have an old vine Ravera. I mean, and this is one of those old houses in Barolo that both have the history and the investment in new vineyards and new bottlings. And we had that over dinner, just opened it, poured it, enjoyed it. It was perfect. It was very Burgundy-like in terms of the subtlety, a little bit of salinity. It goes, it was an Italian restaurant, so maybe that helped, but it just went really well, no drama. Again, plenty of satisfaction, no downside. The Guidalberto here, 2013, this is also, that was a very good year in Tuscany. And in Piedmont, actually, they really made some good wines. 2014 was a little more difficult. 2015 was incredible, but 13 was one of those years where you can find some really good wines. Guidalberto is San Guido. It's the producer. It is Sassicaia. So this is the second wine of Sassicaia. It is also a super Tuscan, made in Bulgaria. So it's really close to the coast in Tuscany. It's primarily Cabernet Sauvignon. And it's got some Petit Verdot and other things, but it's really the expression of Cabernet Sauvignon in Tuscany, which we've talked about before when we discussed these super Tuscans. That was, more of a Cabernet feel. It's a little bit more solid. We also had to open it on short notice and it kind of really worked really well. And that's one I actually have some left for, so I'm gonna be enjoying it. You can see from the color, that is the color of the Cabernet. And on the nose, you still have this deep cherry, a little bit of spice, a little bit of smoke. It's sort of it. And this was open a week ago, so it's still very. This is a wine that you could probably. I had another 2013 that I had a couple years earlier, and I was a little bit disappointed. This time it was a lot better, and I was wondering whether that was something that basically needed more time. So this is another very highly recommended wine. The third one is this Givry Premier Cru by François Lumpp. He has many Givrys. This is a La Brûlée, one of his terroirs. He's got quite a few different vineyards that he makes. A lot of red wine, primarily red wine, a little bit of white wine. Givry is the Côte Chalonnaise, so it's the southern end of Burgundy as you start getting into Mâcon and Beaujolais almost, but I mean it is in Burgundy. It's not as fancy as the Côte de Nuit and the Côte d'Or, Côte de Beaune, but it is a high quality, depending on the producer, you can find some very high quality wines, and there are Premier Crus, so you are getting that quality. And again, this is 2015. This is a wine that could wait, but it's not a super fancy wine, so it could be had also right off the bat. And I made that bet, and we took it to a restaurant. We enjoyed it. Beautiful, beautiful Burgundy. Again, what you expect from a sort of on target Burgundy, subtle but layers to it. You know, a little bit of complexity, earthy with sort of the mushrooms and the notes to it. At the same time, a little bit of salinity, a little bit of acidity, which I think sometimes in our mouth we can confuse the two. So really just went, we had Lebanese food and it went really well with that. And so I just wanted to really make this about this story. What do you take to a restaurant, depending on the occasion and depending on how much preparation you're allowed to do ahead of time? These are not super fancy bottles. They all would say within the sort of in the $50 range. So very nice, high quality, but you're not taking a huge risk, you know, going to a restaurant and not knowing how they're going to be evolving, but at the same time, you know, you're getting to drink something really good with you. Anyway, I hope this is useful, helpful, interesting, and we see you soon.